This is our discussion for the final Life of Pi thing. So I'm gonna start off with a question, and it's in section 3 on the first page of the article. It states, "In this story, you could see the entire story as an abandonment by God, but at the same time, it becomes evident that God was actually present at every moment." Do you think there were times in the novel where Pi strayed away from God, and how do you think his faith progressed over the book?
Yeah, I think there are definitely moments where Pi felt distant from God, like especially right after the shipwreck, when he loses his whole family. I see like he went through grief, he went through fear, and even in moments of doubt, which is totally human. But like what's powerful is that he kept like pushing through, and he never fully let go of his faith, even though he did have doubts. Like he still prayed, he kept thanking God, and we kind of seen it as like a spiritual journey that he continues to grow and grow in his faith.
Yeah, I agree with what Hebron said. I think there were times where Pi felt distance, and especially after losing his family on the boat, like you stated. I think the entire time he was questioning why all this was happening to him, and like instead of like a random person or just anybody.
Yeah.
And I think that anyone in this situation would feel the same thing, but I don't think he ever fully gave up on his faith. It's more like he was grappling with it, and I think he was like trying to understand why he was in the middle of it and why he felt so much pain, even though he was like a religious person, and he thought that like because he was like close with God and all those different religions, I think that he would have felt like that this shouldn't be happening to him, but someone who's not.
Yeah.
And I think over time that his faith seemed to grow stronger, but not in a simple way. It felt like he had to amass that strength piece by piece, almost like how he was building the raft to survive. Yeah. So I think that's like what.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So in page 30 of Life of Pi, Pi says, "Where is God? Where is God? Where is God? God never came. It wasn't God who saved me. It was medicine." And additionally, in page 11, he says, "I felt a great emptiness within me, which then filled with silence." So I feel like this showed at the start of the book he didn't have a strong relationship with God, although he did have a great understanding of religion. But in the third section of the back page in the article, it says, "However, the most important component of a self is the raft, which represents his faith." And I wrote about this on like my summative assessment, and I talked about how the raft represented his like progression with his faith. The raft got beat up and put together many different times in the book, and I feel like this kind of shows his inconsistency with his faith. But once the raft became sturdier and safer, it kind of showed how much he trusted and believed in the Lord. So I think through the adversities he seeked in the novel, he found amenity through surmounting these struggles, which helped him get closer with the Lord. Yeah.
Yeah. I really agree with that, and I could add something to that. In chapter 74, on page 231 of Life of Pi, we see that he says, like, "I practice religious rituals that I adapted to the circumstances." And then later on, he says, "They brought me comfort. That is certain." And it shows us, like, how at the end of all of it, like, it did bring him all comfort. And I kind of see it as, like, a spiritual journey, you know, like, life before getting on the sea, he was, like, a child. He didn't need religion. And religion wasn't being tested in any or explored in any type of way. He was all in his comfort zone. And then the ship sank, and then after, like, everything, like, crashed, you know, like, he didn't know what to do. Like, he realized that he's not in control. And then after when the lifeboat comes, it's like his safety place. And it's like the little faith he has taking him to the place where he should be. And at the end of all of it, he arrives on the coast, and that's like the place he dreamed of going with. And he's thanking God. I think that's why he says at the very beginning, he quotes that this is a story that will make you believe in God. Because at the end of all of it, there's an outcome of it couldn't have been done it couldn't have been done just by him, because he was never in control of anything. He wasn't in control of the shipwreck or anything like that.
Yeah.
I also have something to add. On chapter 56, page 161, it says, "I must say a word about fear. It is life's only true opponent. Only fear can defeat life." I think this quote shows that Pi is deeply afraid of dying, and he was losing hope for him for Richard Parker and himself. But I guess as we know, they're the same people now. And I think that in those moments, he was like questioning his connection to God. Instead of giving into those issues, he decided to carry on with them and like try to persevere through God with them. Okay, I guess I have another question. Moses Ma describes the raft as of Pi's faith, saying something that he has to, or sorry, in quotations, something that he has to construct by himself to be effective. What does a metaphor suggest about the role of personal effort in maintaining belief during hardship? How does this shape your understanding of Pi's character?
I feel like Moses Ma's idea, the raft represents Pi's faith, kind of shows that belief isn't just something that happens on its own, it's something you have to work for. Like, we know that Pi built the raft himself, which showed that during hard times, keeping your faith takes effort, but it doesn't come easy. The raft helps him stay safe from Richard Parker, just like his faith kind of helped him stay strong through everything he was going through. And this made me see Pi as someone who essentially didn't give up easily. Throughout the book, he kept trying, even when things were really hard, and it says a lot about his strength and how important faith was to him. And being someone that tries to surmount hard things says a lot about yourself in like a very positive way.
Yeah,
That's very true. I could not like find anything I disagree with that from what he said, because I believe that like it makes like it made Pi really strong. I believe that it made Pi really strong at the end. And the raft is a metaphor that shows like that it's like a journey, a spiritual journey that he went through. It's not, he didn't just like he wasn't just born and then he just had all the faith, it really shows us.
Yeah, I think the raft was a symbol of Pi's faith because, as Isaac said, that he kind of, or was it Hebron? I don't know. One of you guys said that he was using it to like distance himself from Richard Parker, but that's also like him relying on faith.
Yeah.
So I guess he had to do anything to survive, and it was effort kind of reflects on how he had to grapple with his beliefs too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it makes me see Pi as someone who doesn't give up easily. So, and he had to like amass strength over time, not by just hoping, but actually doing something to hold on to his faith.
Yeah.
I find it really interesting that it's like Richard Parker is Pi, because it shows us how like he struggles with not something else, not an external thing, but an internal thing. Like it's himself. It's like self-destruction almost that your mind goes through if you don't have religion and if you don't have something to stand firm on, like a strong faith or belief.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a question as well, and my question is, in the article of Life of Pi, it talks about on the first page, it says, okay, the article says, Life of Pi is about conscious choice between hopelessness and faith. And so, like, why do you think Pi chose faith instead of hopelessness?
Keep on going.
Yeah.
I think Pi, I think he chose hopelessness because it's the only thing he really had left, because he lost his family, so he doesn't really have anything.
Yeah.
And if he were to give up, like, what was there to stop him from giving up? But I think that since he had that faith to hold on to, even though everything was around him was falling apart, he had to like rely on his faith to drive him to like survive.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think Pi chose faith instead of hopelessness because it kind of gave him another reason to keep going. Like, as we know, he was completely alone in the middle of the ocean, dealing with fear, loss, like, and just everything. But faith was there to, like, hold on to. I feel like if he gave into hopelessness, he probably wouldn't have made it to where he was now or at the end of the novel. but by believing there was a purpose or that God was watching over him gave him like obviously a ton of strength as we see throughout the book. And we talked about his faith before in this discussion, but by him having faith, it helped him stay mentally and emotionally strong when everything around him kind of felt like impossible, essentially.
I really agree with that.
Any other questions?
I guess I could ask one more. What does the story suggest about the power of story? Or, sorry, what does the story suggest about the power of storytelling in shaping our beliefs and emotional survival during these times of trauma? And for me, I think the story highlights. Oh, sorry, let me just turn this off. I think the story highlights how storytelling can shape our beliefs and us emotionally to survive traumatic events. By creating two versions of like Pie's first version of him with the animals and the second version of him with the his parent or his family and the cook and all of them. I think Pie isn't trying to deceive the truth, but I think he's trying to like make his suffering less so he could think of it as in it wasn't his family, but it was a tiger. It was a I forget the other animals, but I think that it shows that the storytelling can be a powerful tool for constructing meaning in the face of chaos. And through this process, I think he's able to amass his inner strength and find a spiritual resilience in his different stories.
Yeah. I agree with that. So I think the novel shows how storytelling is powerful during traumatic times. And I feel like Pi goes through something very intense. Pi goes through something very intense, obviously, in the novel. And like as he was telling the reporters or like the people at the end of the book, he says two versions of what happened to him when he was lost at sea. And he also says something interesting during that time. He says, "Which story do you prefer?" And as we can tell, the story with the animals was the more like calming story compared to something like hearing, oh, like Pi's mom died. We hear something like the orangutan died. And I feel like because of this, it shows that people resort to stories to interpret deeper hidden meanings behind trauma. And that the novel kind of suggests that storytelling shapes not just what we believe, but also how we emotionally get through the pain and adversity in our lives.
Yeah, like the life of Pi shows that storytelling is it's not just like what people like to view as like, like storytelling is not just entertainment, but it's like a survival tool, and it helps him go through like traumatic stuff, just like how Isaac said.
Yeah.
And even like Moses' Ma even says that in the like how he says like Isaac talked about this. He even says that the version of the story we choose can either leave us shattered or help us heal on the first page. And it's like really like strong and powerful because the storytelling does shape what we believe, and it gives us a way to survive emotionally when reality is too hard to face. Like for example, like even in the Bible, it uses storytelling so much for the future. Like storytelling is a form of like helping you for the future, and it's helping us for the future in a way that like it's helping us believe in God. And yeah.
Are we good? I think that's good, right?
Yeah, I think that's good.
Wait. Yeah. Wait, can we say one more question? Because I need to fit in my...
I don't have another question.
And neither do I.
Okay, yeah, that's good then.
Okay. We're done.